A showdown in Texas that could have a big impact on American democracy. As we've been reporting, Republicans want to redraw district maps to help them win House seats in Texas. And Democrats fled the state to block the vote. Texas Governor Greg Abbott now threatening to remove those Democrats from office if they don't return today. But Democrats are not backing down.
Everyone is already tired of the hyper-partisan bickering and all the fighting, because we never get anything done. And they are creating a system that will reinforce that and make it even worse.
So what's really happening here? We have two people who can give us the real deal. CBS News political analyst and Republican strategist Leslie Sanchez and Democratic strategist Chuck Rocha. Good morning to you both, joining us from our D.C. bureau in separate places so we can keep the peace in the bureau. No, just a technical issue. Great to have you with us. Leslie, let's start with you. Is it accurate to call what's happening in Texas a power grab from Republicans?
No, I would call it more of a PR stunt from Democrats. This is not the first time the Democrats have done this. In 2021, over 50 of them went and took a 3.5-week vacation in Washington, D.C., of all places. Nice place, good weather, but not politically where they needed to be. They stormed off and trickled back. Because the reality is that these are electoral decisions that voters actually make when they decide on their state legislature. That's an area Republicans have focused on for the last generation, to win, majorities in these state legislatures, and they get to draw the maps. They're also contending with the fact you have a lot of demographic shifts in Texas. You have a larger conservative Hispanic population. They supported President Trump in 2020 in huge numbers, and they doubled those numbers in 2024. That realignment is something we're seeing in Texas, and we'll probably see along the Sun Belt. So Texas is the first of many states that I think is going to start a trend to match the voters with the electorate.
And Chuck, what do you make of that? Voters in Texas did lean to the right, and Democrats in Democrats-led states, they're considering doing the same exact thing. So what do you make of this?
Lean left or lean right down the middle. It don't matter compared to what they're doing right now, which is mid-cycle redistricting, which they shouldn't be doing. We redistrict every 10 years, every time after the census. There's no way you can put this on Democrats. These Republicans actually drew all these lines. They drew it without any help from the Democrats 5 years ago when they were supposed to. And now they're coming back to take another bite at the apple. Think about this. You're walking down the street in New York with your cowboy hat on, and somebody just comes out of nowhere and just slaps the mess out of you and knocks you down, and you get up and fight back. Is it that person's fault who's just walking down the street minding their own business? Texas is just hanging out, and here comes the Republicans wanting to whoop up on them, and they ain't done nothing but just walk down the street. This is the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. Folks are really aggravated about what they're seeing, and this has nothing to do with the Democrats. The Democrats just have to be like, whoa, all we can do to fight back is not give you a quorum to actually silence the people of Texas.
Okay, you're passionate about this one. No denying that, and that's a good thing. I want to ask you also, Chuck, about what the president did on Friday, firing the Bureau of Labor Statistics commissioner over what he said were scam numbers because of a downward revision and weak numbers. What do you make of that?
Let's tie the two together. First of all, I get firing the guy that makes up the numbers. I cannot tell you the number of weight scales I've thrown out the window because I don't like how much it says I weigh. So it's got to be broken because I know I don't weigh that much. The reason they're doing that, not to make light of it, is because their policies are so unpopular that they're going to Texas to draw 5 new seats so they have a 5-seat advantage because the American people are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and all the Trump administration and Republicans doing are making things more expensive and getting in the way of working folks.
Well, Leslie, it does make us all doubt the quality of the data, right? I mean, what do you make of what's happening?
Well, look, we don't want anything that's going to erode the fundamental trust in the data. But the question, and I think the president has raised a really important point, is the data is flawed. There's been a lot of discrepancy about that. It hasn't been modernized. And so there's a very fair point to take a look at that and put somebody else in charge who can really ensure that it's reliable and not partisan data one way or the other. But I think one thing, let's just go back to what Chuck was saying. When you're looking at elections, as they say, elections have consequences. You're seeing states for the first time in 100 years turn red. That is because working families and such wanted an alternative, and they wanted a different president. They wanted a different action. And this is where we are right now. And that's the consequence of this.
And, carrying forward what Republican voters want is one thing, but when we look at the Office of the Special Counsel now opening an investigation into former President Trump prosecutor Jack Smith, it seems like it may be political because Trump is accusing him of unprecedented interference in the 2024 election. Leslie, why then is this happening now? Might it be a distraction?
I think there was something that came up earlier in the election. There was a lot of discrepancy. People felt that Jack Smith was rushing to trial. So they want to slowly unpack that and see if there was partisanship, violation of the Hatch Act. The real question is, what would the penalty be? Because usually it's termination of federal service. He's already gone. So in some sense, you could say there's a political kind of cover on that. The other is, it's a fair point. Many people felt he was highly politicized and trying to interfere with the election.
Chuck, I'll give you the last word.
Look, I think it's just another thing in a long line. Will folks vote or not vote because he's messing with Jack Smith? Not one thing, but over time, you start seeing this in focus groups and in campaigns about an overreach of power. Starts looking a little authoritarian for folks out there. So that's where you start looking towards the midterms of a narrative.
Leslie Sanchez, Chuck Rocha, great to have you with us on this Monday for a bit of a strat chat. No punching anybody with cowboy hats on any streets anywhere. We can all agree on that. Good to see you both. Thanks for being here.